join us. Okay, board members. Welcome. Board members, staff, general public, stakeholders, welcome to the Utah State Board of Education meeting for March 9th, 2023. Call the meeting to order and want to welcome and thank our Highway Patrol Officer, Chris Horrocks, for being with us. And a reminder, in case of emergency, use the two west doors leading to the hallway to exit the building. Let's see, let's do a check-in. I think we are missing one of our members is still stuck in accident-related traffic, but let's do the roll call. Member Bogus? Yes. Member Booth is stuck, I believe, unless he's joining us remotely. Okay, still stuck. We hope he'll be able to join us shortly. Member Klein? Member Klein might be in the same traffic mess.
It says accidents will be late. Murray.
Okay.
I-15 and Murray.
Member Davis?
Yes, here.
Member Earl?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Hart?
Yeah, here.
Member Hymas? Member Carey? Let's see. Don't have Member Carey yet. Do we have anybody online? I don't think we do. We're all expected in person. Okay. Member Lear? Member Norton? Here. Member Reel? Here. Member Straight? Member Straight? I saw him. Member Straight? Got his computer. All right, we'll count him here. The teachers say that counts. No call to the house for Member Straight. Member Wood? And Member Moss is here. Thank you. Okay. I have to just make one introductory comment and thank a creative board member for a vote-taking tool. Teachers may recognize it as a calling on students tool. This may be used at random to call board members at random to vote. So thank you. This is going to be another fun addition to the vote-taking process. Sometimes we start at the top, sometimes we start at the bottom, and sometimes we're going to be truly random to spread it around. So thank you. All right, we've asked Vice Chair Earl to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. First item of business, we've got a board member message. And I will say before that, we do have a hard time certain at 10 o'clock for our education highlight. We've got Representative Welton, who is a teacher, a currently active teacher, and some students. So we're going to make sure we get through these early items before 10 o'clock for Representative Welton to join us. We've got a board member message from Member Cindy Davis.
What's your number? 11. Did you sign it?
Yeah. Just now.
Thank you. Welcome, board members. It's great to see all of you today. I'm going to start with a little story, and then I'll get to my point. But the little story is about our financial literacy classes. So we just recently have done some updating and finalized some of that in board meeting a month ago. But 23 years ago, when I was a brand spanking new assistant principal at Lone Peak High School, just entering my time as an school administrator, my principal said, hey, I cannot go to listen to the governor speak at this thing. Can you go in my stead? And I said, sure. So he gave me the address, which I followed. These are prior to GPS days, I'll have you know. And I thought I was going to a convention hall and I was going to slip in the back and listen to the governor speak and come back and report on what I heard. Well, I followed the address and ended up at the governor's mansion. I knocked on the door and Governor Leavitt answered. and said, "Hi, Jackie and I have been waiting for you. It's great to see you." And he said, "Come into my kitchen." And I'm like, "Come into your kitchen?" I'm like, Jim Starr is going to get it. What has he gotten me into? This is not a passive listening thing. So I followed him to the kitchen, where I proceeded to have lunch with Governor and Mrs. Levitt and 8 other high school administrators from across the state of Utah. And he proceeded to ask me and them for help. We talked about the health of our families financially in the state. And he said, "We have the highest rate of bankruptcy in the nation here. Consumer debt is out of control. People are losing their houses." And he said, "We don't know what to do. And even though we talk about trying to avoid debt and such in our state, it's not happening where the rubber meets the road, and we need the help of the schools." And thus began the tiny baby seeds of infancy of the financial literacy course at that kitchen table eating lunch together as we were chatting and discussing and started forming a plan. Well, in the last 23 years, several people here have contributed and made that course into what it is for our students. We've received national recognition from financial institutions for the way that we've been moving the steps. And 23 years from now, people will continue to change what we just did a month ago. And some of us won't even be here, well, maybe even alive by then, and people will still be working on this. And even just a week ago, one of my constituents called and said, "Can I meet with you about the very most important thing students will ever experience in our schools?" So I said, "Sure." So I went and met, and you know what we talked about for an hour? Financial literacy class. 23 years after the start, and he said, he's a property owner, he owns properties all over the nation. He said the most important thing our young people will experience in our schools is financial literacy, and it should be a full year and not a semester. I'm like, if I had $1 for every CTE, foreign language, all the teachers who think theirs should be longer, more credits required. But so we talked about, the pros and cons of that, but I drove away wondering, is that really the most important thing that our students experience in schools is the financial literacy class? Maybe it is. Is that the most important thing that we do as board members, creating standards for our courses? Maybe it is. It's certainly one of the most important things we do. But I had my answer 2 days ago of the very most important thing that happens in our schools. I've been working on some things with our alternative schools, and I sat in a room and listened to students from 4 districts and 1 charter alternative schools talk to Governor Cox about what is motivating to them, what is inspiring to them, why, and I will say what I would define as pretty hard lives, why they keep going and are continuing their learning. And they talked about a lot of things, but the biggest common thread was the connection that they had with their teachers and administrators and the adults in the building. That's what kept them motivated. And it was such a powerful experience. I walked away from that building with a very clear understanding that the most important thing I can do as a policymaker is to free up our teachers and our administrators so that they can focus on what matters most, and that's connecting and teaching kids. I have a couple of clips here. We'll watch 2, one right after the other. You may have seen these some years ago, but I think it's a great example of a connection between, this is a famous soccer player in England. He'd be called a footballer, but talking about his teacher. We'll watch one, and then if you can go straight into the next one, Kelsey. Thanks.
First real positive male in my life, and is a teacher called Mr. Pigden, and I thought that this teacher, Mr. Pigden, the words I got from people was that he died, and I was, you know what I mean, at the time I was like, oh Jesus, gutted, because he was somebody who would sit me down. He would talk to me when I had he used to call it the EBGBs, because I would get angry from being like this to full on rage, and he would sit me down and he would talk to me and explain to me, you know what I mean, how to communicate. I was like a little like Tarzan or something. So then he took me out of the class. He literally taught me to read and write properly himself. He turned me into a monitor. So I would go around with the school register, to collect the registers up. I would be the milk monitor guy. You know what I mean? I'd take messages to the teachers. And then once he realized I could play football and everything, he started to teach me how to play football and how you have to pass to other people, and why you have to pass to other people, and why you have to communicate nicely, and why you have to give people encouragement. And like I say, when I met him in this situation, I'm at Highbury, you know what I mean, I'm doing this thing, it's all emotional stuff, and all of a sudden the teacher I thought was dead comes from behind me.
Hello, Ian. Long time no see.
Mr. Pigden, you're alive.
I'm alive, he says. How are you doing?
I can't believe it, someone said you was dead.
As you see, I'm very much in, and I'm so glad you've done so well with yourself.
And I literally started to cry like I was like, I don't know, a 5, 6-year-old, uncontrollable crying because of how happy I was to see him. And, you know, when I watched it, that is when I realized how much of an effect that man had on my life, and how important it is to have a positive male figure in your life.
Let's skip the second link because the sound is kind of tough to hear. But in the second clip, it expands more on this experience he had right here when he ran into him back at his old school. And it talks about how he says that his teacher said that he was more proud of him and the way he had grown up and was playing for and representing their country than even of the teacher's own experience he had when he flew in World War II for serving the country. Even more proud of him. And then this soccer player was able to go back and put a plaque up on the school in honoring this teacher. And this famous soccer player who had a rough upbringing said, the most important and best day of my life is when I put that plaque up for my teacher who loved me. And I have current examples of that too in my own kid's life. I've got a little picture here that, well, I'll just say I pray and am grateful for any connections my own kids have with teachers, coaches, and parent volunteers at school. I just went to an end-of-season banquet for my daughter's junior high basketball team with a coach who lifted these girls by celebrating wins and modeling grace and resilience during losses. She connected with them by coaching basketball, providing service opportunities for them to pack meals for the road home, and continuously expressing love to them and respect to them and their parents. At the banquet, a parent said, "I don't know why I'm crying. I wasn't even a player on the team." And I said, "We're all crying because this wonderful employee and busy mom of 6 kids of her own that all live at home under age of 14 made room in her heart to love and uplift our kids too." And that's the magic and connection that changes lives.
Anna Taylor.
And why I consider the halls of our schools sacred places.
Participants in the meeting. This meeting is being.
I think that's someone online.
If you're online for public comment, it's our folks, okay. Sorry.
Anyway, my kids have had teachers who are equally impactful and to whom I'm equally grateful. And I was just saying that this is why I consider the halls of our schools sacred places. Here's a picture of the team that the coach herself painted, Randy. She's a basketball coach and an artist. And she painted this of the team. And now here is a picture of an individualized shadow box made for each player. It's personalized with their team number and all the little paraphernalia things that are special to their team. And here is a picture of a cemetery plot where I will be buried someday. I know some of you are thinking, well, that presentation just took a hard right. Like, where are we going here? But I just want to say, I'm just so thankful for teachers and coaches and people at our schools who are making these connections for our kids. And I saved up and a few years ago bought my spot that will be my final resting place. And every once in a while, I go there. Not often because that would be morbid, but and not because I'm thinking about death all the time, but just because I want to think about life and how it's pretty short and it's pretty temporary. And what am I doing with it? I tell my kids, see, I'm right there. I'm going to be right in that space between that huge headstone and the flag. I tell my kids, love God and country, and you'll always know where to find me. So it'll be easy for them when I'm gone. But when I go, I think about my life priorities, which are faith, family, friends, and future, the future of the children of Utah. And if I spend all my days, and quite frankly I have, in those 4 things, then I will go without regret. And as a policymaker, that I have come more and more as of late to understand that the most important thing we can do as policymakers is to support our teachers, our administrators, our parent volunteers, and all those who are working in the schools to have healthy and strong and beautiful connections and learning with our students. And so I'm honored to work with all of you in that process. And welcome to the meeting, and let's get to it.
Thank you very much, Member Davis.